Hello everyone! In our last video, we took a quick look at the affordable Poco M3. But today, let's check out the phone in detail. Before we get started on the review, we have to remind you that the Poco M3 is a super affordable device, so our review and analysis will naturally take this factor into account. First, let's look at its design. When compared to most budget phones, the M3's design definitely deserves the word value for money, featuring excellent build quality. And we've seen a lot of budget models that share very similar designs. Well, usually companies do not pay much attention to these budget models' design, but the rear design of the M3 is much more unique and recognizable. Although the back cover isn't glossy or made out of metal, it does not feel cheap at all. The textured leather cover finish is a nice touch, which at first glance makes the phone stand out from the boring budget model designs. And the camera module is arranged on the left side of the upper embedded glass. To achieve visual balance, Poco's logo is also shown on the opposite side. The model in our hand is the black edition. Thanks to the one-piece molding of the back cover and the frame, the elegant back appearance brings a sense of unity. When you turn the phone around, the front face reminds us of its budget placement, featuring a water-drop 1080p LCD display. Of course, the display isn't really crisp, but for an affordable phone, we are not complaining. The consolation is that the screen-to-body ratio is well controlled without leaving an unpleasant chin. To be honest, we were a bit worried about the display quality at the beginning, but the moment we turned on the phone, its good color representation restored our faith in the M3. In this price segment, hardware compromises are common due to cost reduction. Although the Snapdragon 662 SoC running inside the Poco M3 is not a power-packed performance choice, users still have a complete and fluid experience using the global version of Xiaomi MIUI 12 OS. Besides, Snapdragon 662 is an upgraded chipset from Snapdragon 660 and has been optimized for better camera performance. According to the benchmark, results on Geekbench 5 and Antutu and Poco M3 CPU performance is almost equal to some models running the Snapdragon 665. So, we can at least say that the software optimization of this chipset is pretty good. Another detail that's worth noting is the multi-core performance, which is relatively impressive when compared to its single-core performance. Given this chipset, we were curious whether the phone could fluently run popular games like PUBG Mobile. When running PUBG, the game doesn't allow players to turn on HD or higher graphics on this phone. It can only run at medium frame rate option under balanced graphics. But the frame rate can go higher under smooth graphics settings. In order to access its highest performance, we broke through the frame limit in PUBG China version to 60 FPS, which is a third-party tool. Under balanced graphics, although running is not completely smooth, we still were able to get a good gaming experience with an average frame rate at 50.22 FPS. When we shifted to smooth graphics, the M3 could smoothly run the game at around 50 FPS with less fluctuation, and surprisingly, the average frame rate of 58.19 is better than what we expected before. And now, let's look at its camera performance. Likely to keep the cost down, the ultra-wide-angle lens was sacrificed for a better quality 48-megapixel primary lens. Although somehow it's a kind of compromise, in light of past experience, we do prefer a more practical camera module led by a better main camera rather than a relatively useless wide-angle camera with poor quality. The other two cameras, the macro lens and the portrait depth of field lens, complete the camera setup on the phone. Among these three cameras, the main camera is the one that gave us the biggest surprise. From the samples shot from the main camera, we can see that under good lighting conditions, the images presented decent colors with good dynamic range. And thanks to the 48-megapixel original resolution, the main camera could shoot high-resolution photos with rich detail, and even for normal modes, most samples had good clarity. But due to the lack of OIS anti-shaking, users have to be careful to hold the phone firmly when shooting in low lighting conditions. Another problem is that sometimes the exposure strategy is too aggressive in some complicated scenes, which turn out to be hard to reach a correct exposure for corners' bright details. Most of the time, the main camera had a stable performance in capturing good night photos with its useful night mode. Most of the night shots showed good control with balanced exposure. But when we moved to extreme dark scenes, the drawbacks of this sensor were exposed. For example, to offer more detail in extremely dark conditions, the exposure is so aggressive that the whole image turned out to be much noisier. But overall, we did admire Poco's efforts in optimizing the camera software, as it has already shown a lot more potential than what we expected from the hardware. As for the macro lens and the portrait one, their performance is not as impressive as the main camera, although they did make macro and portrait shooting much easier. The macro samples have close focus and good color presentation, but didn't present satisfactory clarity. In portrait mode, the phone allows users to edit the original photo with the reselected focus and aperture. But from the samples, we found that the edge detection was not accurate, especially when you look closely at the samples. The 6,000 mAh battery of the M3 far exceeded our expectations of an affordable device. To check its battery life in daily use, we did a power consumption test to simulate our daily use. In 1 hour of PUBG gaming, it consumed 14% of power, another 12% dropped after an hour of camera use, 6% after 1 hour of social media use, and a further 6% drop in battery after 1 hour of video playback. After the test, there was still 62% of power left. The Poco M3 is equipped with 18-watt charging efficiency, which is not really a remarkable fast charging solution for an Android phone. It took us over 2 hours to fully charge the phone, which doesn't really match its super large battery capacity. But considering that the latest iPhone is also using 18-watt fast charging solution, we are not going to complain about this affordable model. Overall, after all the tests we've done on the Poco M3, we can definitely recommend this phone in its price segment. Although the phone could not be praised for its performance and charging, some features like its excellent build quality, good camera performance, and long battery life make it stand out from the boring budget phones. So, this was our review of the Poco M3. What else would you like to know about this phone? Please let us know and leave your comments down below. And if you like our videos, please click the like and subscribe buttons, which means a lot to us. Thanks for watching. This is Kieran from Gizmo China. We'll see you soon.